My name is Miguel Santos, and I have been living with a secret for 15 years. Every morning when I wake up in my small apartment in Phoenix, I practice the same sentence in front of my bathroom mirror. Good morning, my name is Miguel, and I am an electrical engineer. But when I speak those words, they come out heavy and clumsy, weighed down by an accent that marks me different before I can prove my word. The man in the mirror knows the solution to complex electrical problems that could save companies millions of dollars, but the world has only broken English and assumes broken intelligence. I arrived in Phoenix em 2009 with a master's degree in electrical engineering from Universidade Nacional Autónoma de México, 15 years of experience designing power systems for major manufacturing plants, and the English skills that I thought were adequate. Back in Guadalajara, I had been Miguel Santos, the engineer who solved impossible problems, who led teams of 20 technicians, who was respected and consulted on critical decisions. Here, he became Miguel, the maintenance worker was supervisor, spoke to him slowly and loudly, as if volume could bridge the gap between languages. The cruel irony hit me during my first job interview at the Southwest Energy Solutions. I sat across from 3 engineers, all younger than me, watching their expression changes. I struggled to explain my experience with industrial electrical systems. I knew exactly what I needed. I had designed similar systems in Mexico that were more efficient than anything they were currently using. But when I tried to describe my innovations, the words tangled in my mouth like live wires. I have designed the system for. I watched a patience filled with a sharp grammatical stumble. The lead engineer, a man named Johnson with kindness but a weird manner, finally interrupted. Thank you, Miguel. We'll be in touch. Ik knew they wouldn't be. That night, I called my wife Helena, who was still in Guadalajara waiting for around visa approval. O dia de Tegeo, mi amor, she asked, her voice bright with opacros crackling international connection. I couldn't tell her that my engineering degree, even after years of sacrificial study, had been headset to a piece of paper that nobody seemed to value. I couldn't explain that language, but it wasn't just about communication. It was about dignity, respect, and crashing realization that intelligence without fluent English was apparently worthless in America. For the next 6 months, I took whatever work I could find. I cleaned office buildings at the night, my own datums drafted complex electrical schematics, now pushing the mop across floors where real engineers worked during the day. During lunch breaks, I would study at abandoned whiteboards, understanding the calculations perfectly, but knowing I could never explain my insights in words I would respect. The security guard, a king with Milan man named Carlos, was found me doing this. You understand all that? He asked in Spanish. When he nodded, he shook his head sadly. Smart my cleaning floors because we can't make the words come out right. This country breaks your brain off. The language barrier became even more painful when Helena and also Mateo finally joined me 8 months later. Mateo was 12 ton, and his English improved with the frightening speed that only children possess. Within 3 months, he was translating for Mated grocery store, the book, on the parent-teacher conference that should have been my opportunity to advocate for my son's education. I remember sitting in his avant-grad classroom while Emir S. Peterson explained his grads, watching my 12-year-old son fast grow serious as he translated complex academic concepts he couldn't grasp in English. She says I'm very good at the math, but I need to participate more in class discussions, Mateo told me, but he caught the apologetic look in his eyes. He was already learning to be ashamed of his father's limitations. The breaking point came during a parent-teacher conference the following year. Matthew's grad science teacher, Emil Williams, was explained that Mateo had such an aptitude for engineering and physics. He has an intuitive understanding of electrical concepts that's quite remarkable for his age, Emil Williams said, looking at him expectantly. He wanted to tell him that Mateo came by it naturally, that he had been teaching him basic electrical principles since he was 5, that engineering ran in our family like a chloro right. Instead, he smiled and nodded while Mateo translated, watching my son carry the burden of buying the voice for both of us. That evening, Mateo asked WHY and never spoke up during these meetings. You know more about electricity than Emil Williams though. Papa, WHY don't you tell me about your work in Mexico? The question could drive me like a blood. Coley explained to my 13-year-old son that knowing something and being able to communicate it in English were 20 different kinds of intelligence. Coley telling that every time he opened my mouth in professional settings, he felt like he was bettering the person he used to be, he decided to take action. E enrolled in an advanced English as a second language program at the Phoenix Community College, attending class 3 nights a week after my maintenance shifts. The program was designed for professionals like me, engineers, doctors, accounts from various countries who ascend their careers that are by language barriers. My classmate Fatima had been a surgeon in Syria, Dmitry had been an aerospace engineer in Russia, and Rosa had been a chemist professor in Colombia. We were a separate group of displaced professionals, practicing pronunciation and grammar while our expertise slowly atrophied from disuse. The ASL program helped, but progress was frustratingly slow. After 6 months, it could have basic conversations with more confidence, but technical discussions still felt like trying to par for a survey with of our meets. The instructor, MRSN, was patient and encouraging, but she couldn't speed up the fundamental hearing of my brain that fluency required. Language learning is like building muscle, they would say. You have to be patient with process. But patience was a luxury couldn't afford while my family struggled financially and my professional skills grew rusty. The real breakthrough came through an unexpected source. Helena had found work as a house cleaner for several families in Scottsdale, and one of her clients, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, was an electrical engineer at a renewable energy company. When Dr. Mitchell learned about my background through Helena, she asked to meet me. Our conversation took place in Dr. Mitchell's kitchen while Helena cleaned upstairs, and despite my nervousness, something about her genuine interest made the words come easier. She asked technical questions about my experience with power grid optimization, and I found myself sketching diagrams on her notepad to supplement my limited vocabulary. Your English will improve, Dr. Mitchell told me at the end of our conversation, but your engineering knowledge is already valuable. Have you considered getting your credentials evaluated and pursuing professional certification there? She explained that many states have programs designed to help foreign trained engineers transition to American standards. The language barrier is real, but it is not insurmountable. You just need the right pathway. That conversation changed everything. Dr. Mitchell connected me with the National Institute for Certification in Engineering Technologies, which offered a bridge program for foreign trained engineers. The program included technical English course certificate designed for engineering professionals, plus preparation for the professional engineering licensation. It was expensive, nearly $8,000 that we didn't have, but Dr. Mitchell helped me apply for a scholarship program funded by local engineering firms fazem work estágios. The bridge program was intensive and demanding. For 8 months, I attended class during the day while continuing my maintenance job at the night. The technical English component was revelatory. Finally, he was learning the specific vocabulary and communication patterns used in American engineering contexts. He practiced presenting project proposals, writing technical reports, and participating in team meetings. The instructor, Professor Davies, had worked with hundreds of foreign engineers and understood exactly where our communication broke down. It is not just about grammar and vocabulary, Professor Davies explained during one of our sessions. It is about understanding American workplace communication culture. In many countries, technical expertise speaks for itself. Here, you have to be able to sell your ideas, to advocate for your approach, to build consensus through discussion. These are learnable skills, not innate talents. The program also included real-world internship opportunities with local engineering firms. He was placed with Mesa Solar Systems, a mid-sized company designing residential and commercial solar installations. My supervisor, Janet Rodriguez, was a second-generation Mexican-American engineer who understood the challenges he faced. He grew up watching my father, who was a brilliant mechanic, get passed over for promotions because of his accent told me during my first week. Intelligence has many languages, but unfortunately, American business usually only recognizes one. Working at the Mesa Solar was like coming back to life professionally. Despite my ongoing language challenges, it could contribute meaningfully to projects. When the team was struggling with power optimization for a large commercial installation, it suggested a low distribution approach he had used successfully in Mexico. Haven't yet to draw diagrams and do simple English to explain my concept. The solution worked beautifully and saved client $30,000 in equipment costs. My confidence grew with a small success. He started speaking up more in team meetings, asking questions when he didn't understand something harder than pretending he did. Janet encouraged this approach. It is better to ask for clarification than to make assumptions, she said. E ora que sendo hoje ter mais que o less intelligent, e ter mais que o multilingual, which actually an asset in our increasingly global industry. De real test came when I decided to pursue my professional engineering license. The action was entirely in English, covering not just technical knowledge but also professional communication and ethics. I studied for 6 months, taking practice tests and working with a tutor from the engineering program. Helena and Mateo both supported my efforts. Having determined having less family time and financial stresses, I had set my maintenance hours to focus on studying. The day of the PA was everything. Sitting in that testing center, surrounded by native English speakers who seemed completely at ease, I felt every one of my linguistic limitations. But when I opened the test booklet, something remarkable happened. The technical problem spoke to me in the universal language of mathematics and physics. I might struggle with prepositions and articles, but I understood low calculations, circuit analysis, and system optimization at a fundamental level that transcended language barriers. I passed the echelon on my first attempt. When the results came in the mail 3 months later, I started at the certificate for 10 minutes before calling Helena at work. I did it, I whispered in the phone. I'm a licensed professional engineer in Arizona. She agreed, and that's your DD, right there in our tiny apartment kitchen. The PA license opened doors that had been closed for 6 years. Mesa Solar offered me a full-time position as a project engineer, with a salary that finally allowed Helena to stop cleaning house and pursue her own career goals. More importantly, the whole government professional respect I have been missing. Clients listened to my recommendations, colleagues sought my input on technical challenges, and my opinions carried weight in project decisions. But the transformation wasn't just professional, it was personal. Mato, now a sophomore in a school with dreams of studying computer engineering, started asking for help with his advanced physics homework. Papa, can you explain transformers work? He asked one evening. As he launched into an explanation, switching between English and Spanish to make sure he understood concepts, he realized that my bilingual perspective was actually an advantage. He could explain complex ideas in 2 languages, drawing on different cultural approaches to technical education. He also became involved in mentoring other immigrant engineers through the Arizona Society of Professional Engineers Diversity Outreach Program. Every month, he meet with newly arrived engineers from various countries, sharing resources and strategies for navigating the American professional landscape. Your accent is not a deficiency, he tells time. It is evidence of your courage to start over in a new language. The technical knowledge is there. WS just need to learn to package it in ways Americans can recognize and value. One of my mentees, Dr. Mara from Nigeria, recently passed a PhD and landed a position with a major engineering firm in Tucson. You should that language barrier as an aid, said Toden. It is not permanent. It is just price we pay for expanding our opportunities. As success reminded me of my own journey and reinforced my commitment to helping others navigate similar challenges. Helena has since completed her own English certification and now works as a bilingual family educator at the Matthews High School, helping other immigrant families navigate the education system. You understand what it is like to feel voiceless, she tells parents she works with. But your voice is there. Sometimes it just needs translation, and sometimes it needs amplification. My relationship with English continues to evolve. While ELL probably always have an accent, I've learned that clear communication is more important than perfect pronunciation. I've developed strategies for professional interactions. I prepare key phrases before important meetings. I ask for clarification when I don't understand something, and use visual arts whenever possible to supplement my verbal explanations. My colleagues have adapted too. They speak more slowly when discussing complex topics. They check for understanding before moving on, and they value my different perspective on technical challenges. The language barrier taught me that communication is a two-way responsibility. Yes, I needed to improve my English skills, but the American workplace also needed to develop better practice for including non-native speakers. Many companies are now implementing inclusive communication training, recognizing that linguistic diversity can be a competitive advantage rather than a burden to accommodate. Key resources and solutions that made the difference. The National Institute for Certification in Engineering Technologies offers bridge programs specifically designed for foreign trained professionals. Their technical language course focus on workplace communication, rather than general conversation skills. Local community colleges often have advanced ESL programs tailored for professionals. These programs understand that academic English and workplace English require different skills and vocabularies. Professional organizations like the Society of Professional Engineers have mentorship programs and networking opportunities that can help immigrant professionals build connections and understand workplace culture. Toastmasters International provides a supportive environment for practicing public speaking and professional communication. Many chapters specifically welcome non-native speakers and focus on building confidence rather than eliminating accents. The Upwork and freelancer platforms can provide opportunities to use your professional skills while building English communication experience in lower-pressure remote work environments. State professional licensing boards often have resources for foreign trained professionals, including credential evaluation services and exam preparation materials. Today, when young immigrant professionals ask him about overcoming language barriers, he tells them that fluency isn't igual, effective is. Your accent might make you sound different, but your ideas, expertise, and perspective make you valuable. The language barrier is real, but it is temporary. The knowledge in your head is permanent, and America needs what you know, even if it takes time to learn to present it in ways this country can recognize and appreciate.